Swag out them boss.
And welcome to another episode of the Sartorial Geek Podcast by Webster Style, where we talk about bow ties, comic books, and everything in between. I'm your host, Webster Style, the man, the voice, the fragrance. And let's jump right into the download. Now, this week we have one that is a game that I have been looking forward to, and I'm not even a big fan of what it's inspired by, but I have yearned for a very classic style of RPG as of late. And this one definitely fits the bill from what I've seen so far. It is Sea of Stars on the PS4, 5, Xbox One, SX, PC, and Switch. It's also coming to, and this is the first, Game Pass and PlayStation Plus, I think the highest tier, on day one. So if you're in a PlayStation or Xbox ecosystem and you have their subscription services, you can play it for the cost of your subscription. Switch owners, you got to pay for a price. Sorry about that. But it is an RPG from Sabotage Studios. It is inspired by classic Super Nintendo 16-bit era RPGs like Chrono Cross. In this, Sea of Stars is a turn-based RPG inspired by the classics. It tells the story of two children of the solstice who will become or combine the powers of the sun and moon to perform eclipse magic, the only force capable of fending off the monstrous creations of the evil alchemist known as the Fleshmancer. Now, with a Fleshmancer name, it sounds like a horror movie. I feel like that should be like one of the spin-offs of the Reanimated series or something like that. But the demo for this game has been out for a little bit now, and I got a chance to play it. And I love the art, I love the music, I love the battle system as well. It is very much that old school RPG feel with, some modern nuances there. So I cannot, without reservation, recommend Sea of Stars for you to download. Again, if you have one of those two subscription services, you're good to go, or else I think it's retailing for about $30 as well. This originally started as a crowd-funded Kickstarter, if I remember correctly, so it's coming a long way since it started, but it is finally coming to consoles and PC and Switch so we all can play. So that's my download for the week, Sea of Stars. Sticking with gaming, let's go into our short takes. And a few months ago, I lambasted Sony for the decision to create what they were calling the PlayStation Q, which by all accounts was simply a DualShock with an 8-inch screen slapped in between it for you to simply play games via remotely your PS5. Well, they finally announced it. The PlayStation Portal, which is going to retail surprisingly for $199.99. So across the internet, everybody pretty much assumed they wouldn't be charging $299 for it, which really would have rendered it dead on arrival even for an impulse purchase. And even with that, it gets worse. So the PlayStation Portal has a QHD 8-inch screen, 1080p resolution. The controller is basically a DualShock controller. It offers a 3.5mm headphone jack for your headphones. It only does remote play. So your PlayStation has to be on for you to access games that are stored locally on your PlayStation. So you cannot take advantage of any cloud offerings of your PlayStation Plus subscription via that handheld. Also, as of right now, it works best if you're on the same Wi-Fi. So this may not be something that you want to take with you, on a trip or something where you do have Wi-Fi enabled, but it may not be that good of a quality. And obviously that's going to be dictated by your Wi-Fi signal anyway, but it's just one of those things where $200 for an accessory. But then here's the kicker. There's no Bluetooth. But they also announced two headphone products, one earbuds retailing for $199.99, the other a pair of headphones, $149.99. I forget the names of them because names are really irrelevant. It features their new proprietary technology, their PlayStation Link technology. And the only wireless headphones earbuds you can attach to the PlayStation Portal are one of these two items, or any earbuds, earphones that they make in the future that features PlayStation Link technology. So of all the earbuds you have, you can't use any of them with this device. So if you want wireless earbuds, you're paying an additional $200 to $150 on top of the $199 for a remote player. I cannot believe the anti-consumer practices that Sony is doing. You'd think they would have learned with the memory stick on the Vita. This is absolutely ridiculous. And considering that earbuds are low-cost ways for companies to get into their market and get their product out into the market, that's why everybody has earbuds. Earbuds doesn't take a lot of money to produce from a company standpoint, and they have a very high rate of return. So the fact that they are selling these for $200 and they're not even Bluetooth, they're only Sony PlayStation Link. They don't even work with other Sony products. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. And considering the Portal is $199, it is only as a remote player. It works best on the same Wi-Fi as your device. I cannot see a lot of people wanting this. Remote play is already a niche sort of proposition. I know that I used to do it, not a lot, but using my Xbox and that remote play, especially before cloud play via Game Pass became a thing, I used remote play occasionally, but in the house where I lived in. Sometimes when I didn't want to be in the room where my Xbox was and I didn't want to move my Xbox to another room, I would do remote play via my laptop. And again, in-house cases, and that's great, but that was every once in a while. I cannot see a large majority of gamers wanting a device like this. I understand the use case. I understand the use cases if your PlayStation 5 is attached to, say, a main TV, someone else is watching the TV and you want to play your game and you can play it, or you can take it into your bedroom or what have you and play the game there. I understand that. But let's be frank. The core demographic of most gamers are those that are adults. And I mean, we're talking about 25 to 45 years old. Most of those individuals, most of them, have their own places to live, have their own dedicated TV for their gaming systems like I do. A lot of those individuals are not going to need or desire that sort of device. Those are the people, honestly, with the money to pay for it. I just find, I want to know who greenlit this, because unless this is a Trojan horse, unless they're going to update it later with some sort of cloud playability in the near future, then it could be a decent peripheral accessory to have. I just don't see it now as a dedicated remote player, as it being something that a mass majority of gamers are going to want. So that's my take on the PlayStation Portal. I think it's DOA, and much like the VR2, they're not going to sell as many as they think they're going to, in my opinion. So that's my opinion on that. Now let's get to some somber news. We lost early in the week Terry Funk, and if you saw the most recent episode of Kayfabe Baby, the NRW Ring Generals podcast, myself, Sean Mongold, and the legend R.I.P talked about Terry Funk and his impact on wrestling. And then the next day, we got a bombshell. I still am in disbelief that this performer, this wrestler, one of my favorite wrestlers of the modern era, is gone. Bray Wyatt, Wyndham Rotunda, passed away this past week of a heart attack caused by complications with COVID, of all things. Bray was easily one of the most talented, creative superstars that WWE has produced in the past 10 to 15 years. His creativity was unmatched. His ability to tell stories was unmatched. And I am not even sad that I won't get to see this wrestler anymore, because we've been all waiting for him to come back. And everyone had talked about, dream feuds with him and Cody and other people once he got back. I'm not even sad that will never happen. I'm sad the fact that he has young children. He has a wife. He has an ex-wife. His family will no longer be able to see him smile or hear him laugh. His children are now going to grow up without their father, and that is the hardest part about this whole thing. And he was 36 years old. 36. He was so relatively young, and to now that his kids will remember him via video compilations or pictures at home, it's sad they won't be able to grow up and be with him. I send Godspeed, blessings, well wishes to the family of Wyndham Rotunda, Bray Wyatt, the leader of worlds, the eater of worlds, Sister Abigail's right-hand man. He will be missed. He touched us probably more than he will never. Well, he probably knows now since he sees us from up above, but he touched so many of us, including me. One of the things that I'll miss most about Bray Wyatt is his passion. His passion for wrestling, his passion for storytelling, his passion for his creativity. And recently I had a chance to speak with someone who has a great deal of passion in what they do and in their heart, and who's someone who I've been able to communicate with off and on over the past few years, especially after being introduced to his fragrance signature Pour Homme. And is none other than the man, the world traveler, and is none other than George Zaharoff. And we're here with someone who, well, if you watch my content, you've definitely heard his name a lot. He's proprietor of one of the fragrance houses that I really come to love over the past couple of years. Is none other than the one, the only George Zaharoff. George, how are you doing today, sir?
Oh, I'm good. Thank you very much. And that's quite the introduction. It's nice to meet you in person. I think this is the first time we've actually spoken.
Yes.
Right? And seeing each other.
Yes. It's nice. I know we've exchanged messages and voice notes over the years, but it's nice to, even though it's not in person, still meet you face to face.
And you're a very busy man too, so this is great that we're able to do this.
Yeah, I agree. I appreciate your time. Now, I wanted to ask you, I've seen a lot about your story. We've talked offline as well over the years. But one of the things that I've always been curious about is, where does your love of fragrance come from?
So the love of fragrance, it's interesting because I realize that in the fragrance community, it's the love of fragrance. Whereas with me, it's more of how do I express my artistry through fragrance. So I don't have 1,000 different fragrances. I don't have some of the individuals in this space are very passionate about their fragrances, and they'll have, some have 1,600 bottles of different brands. And so for me, it stemmed from when I was 19 years old. I was in Paris. I was thinking of doing my MBA. Louis Vuitton at the time had just opened a school to get a master's degree in luxury goods. And what they would do is that you would go to this master's program, and then you would be found a position in one of their fashion houses. And so I went there after I graduated DePaul, just to get my feet wet to see. And they're like, why don't you sit in one of the classes? And so at that moment, they were talking, it was a case study on perfume. And I remember that evening writing in my journal, because in those days when right after Edison invented the light bulb. We used to write in journals, in diaries. And I wrote and I said, what is one thing that I could take all my visions and dreams and put into one product? And I go, maybe a perfume. And so for me, my love of perfume came with me being able to get the brand Zaharoff, my vision, out into the market quite quickly. And that's exactly what it did, now looking back in retrospect. So my love for fragrance was a little bit different than, some people's journeys. I used it as a vehicle to pursue my dreams. And so that's the answer.
Okay, you talk about pursuing your dreams, and one of the things that you've done over the past few years, and especially how we connected, was you really connected and embraced I hate the word influencer, because I always say I talk about what I love and talk about what I like. If you choose to buy it or it's something you want to dabble in, that's fine with me. But I think a lot of other people will really speak to the same fact that they talk about what they love. But I would say you really embrace the online creators, so much so I would say you even assisted in the dreams of some fellow creators with the Z Creators line. How did that come about?
So when I first came in, now I come from brick and mortar. Remember, I've been doing this for 30 plus years. And I come from Nordstrom, Neiman Marcus, where you always have to think about ways to keep things moving, And so when Nordstrom said, when we were going to launch the fragrance, Nordstrom said, George, you have no presence online. And for me, I was very private. I focused on my customers. I didn't care for online stuff. If you go from, 2018 and behind, you don't see anything online because I just focused on my customers, in the stores. And so I freaked out. I'm like, oh my God, I got to put myself out there. I put myself into therapy for a year because I was preparing for the trolls, which I think helped a lot, because going into, I'm going to jump right back on topic, but trolling is a very interesting mechanism, psychological mechanism for both the troll and the person receiving the troll. So we'll just say that. And so when I got into this space, I look at all of these different influencers and I'm like, these are little brands. I could see each of these content creators, I could see them as mega brands.
Right.
But I didn't realize the amount of, how do I say this? So I consider myself very accessible.
Mm-hmm.
I consider myself very open with my knowledge. I try to mentor people. I'm out there. I try showing people my life. I brought them to my home. You know what I mean? Like I show people, yes. I'm very open about myself, how I do my business, my products, everything. And because I think there's so much things going on behind the scenes, is that I then am low-hanging fruit to come after for some of the things that people feel are happening behind the scenes. Does that make sense? Am I making sense?
I do understand.
And so I enjoyed it. And on the flip side, when you're dealing with, like, for me, when I came into this space, I can't lie. Like I can't lie to Nordstrom or the Nordstrom's customer and say, oh, this is this, but it isn't. So you get kicked out. It destroys you. It ruins you. And That's the world I come from. And when you're around people that say, that this is this and it's not true, and I called it out. I don't want to be negative, but these are some of the things that I've had to experience that surprise me, because in real life it wouldn't jive. And so it's been an interesting journey, let's just say that.
Understood.
Yeah. So I decided to there were 6 Zed creators. I wanted to give them a bottle, a box, and let them do whatever they wanted. I wanted to give them the experience of creating a fragrance, of what it goes through to create a fragrance. And I did. And, you know, out of the 6, 3 decided to leave, and the 3 remained. And I think we did a good job. I think it was very successful. And I think that you're going to see more of that in the future. But, you know, for me, I'm done, because I have so many other things going on right now. When we were doing it, I had 1 fragrance, 2 fragrances at the time.
Right.
And now there's 12, and and we're selling out in different countries. I just don't have the time. It's a lot of work. The way I do it, the way I have to do it, the way it's done by Zaharoff, by George, it's also, you know, almost $1 million. It's a lot. It's a lot of money to do this.
Understood. Now, one of the things that, you know, I will say, okay, let me back up. So with even the social media piece, like this right here, the blueprint of your bottle, I obtained that through a partnership you did with Red Essence, and that's what exposed me to your brand in the first place. And just getting my hands on Signature, and, you know, smelling other fragrances after that. But during that time period, one of the things that really captivated me about, you know, you talk about your online presence, was your YouTube videos of you traveling the world and really giving an education about the different notes, the different components of Signature. And I thought that was, the way it was done was very engaging and captivating, in my opinion. I couldn't wait for a new video to drop. It was just one of those things that I had to watch, because it was just so, it was interesting, especially at that point in time. I was very early on in my fragrance journey at that time. So seeing that aspect of it was very new to me. It's not something that I saw watching some of the influences that I watched.
And it's still new. Like, I don't see anyone else doing it.
No, not at all.
So, and then what happened is that we had the COVID, right? So all of a sudden it changed everything. I couldn't get on a plane. I couldn't show, you know, and so I got on a plane and I went to Turkey. I was filming for the next fragrance, and I have them all, you know. I love doing that. I didn't know, you know, I need to do something with the channel. And as many people might not realize, I do a lot of this on my own.
Right.
And so it's a lot. It's a lot of work. And I would love to do something with my channel. I would love to do more oil, because, you know, Mon sources oil all over the world. And I don't know, many people don't realize it, but oils are a resource of the country. So I just can't fly to Indonesia and take a jug of patchouli and just fly home with it. It's considered like oil, or, you know, quartz or diamonds. It's part of their resource. So it has to have all the paperwork filed, all the which farmer or which collective, and it has to all be on the up and up. You know, I want to make sure that we're not destroying rainforests, or I have little children working on, you know, pulling like everything has to be done right. And there are a lot of fragrances out there that don't have the paperwork, you know, and so going back to what you're saying, I wish I could do more of the online content, and I will. I'll get back to it. I think I just need to find the right partner who could travel around, you know what I mean, with me to do this. And that's also not easy to find.
Right. Well, you're only one person. You can't do everything.
And I do everything. Like all the design, the packaging.
Right.
You know, the fragrances. I work with Claude Deer from Man, who's incredible. And there's some kind of. Have you smelled all of the fragrances, Alden?
Not yet.
I have to, because I know that I remember the interactions I had with you early on. Because when I look at you, you are a Zaharoff man. Like, when I think of who I create for, it's someone like yourself who's out there living their dream. I think we've had this talk before, you know, doing and going after their own dreams and aspirations. So you know, I do everything myself, and so I have to pace myself. We're expanding into Europe, and today was the first day that I thought, should I postpone this? It's taking me 2 years, lawyers, accountants, banks, so many tax, you know, Francaise, the French tax, all of this other stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, like I came to a point where I just felt like, I had to get an office. I had to get a phone. I had to get all of this stuff in France, in Paris. And today was the first day that I thought, should I just wait? Anyway, so yes.
Understood. If I remember correctly, Signature debuted in 2018, I think it was. Yep. So you go from 2018 to 2023. It's still weird to say 2020 whatever. 12 fragrances, but you're also expanding Zaharoff. I know you've think some leather goods as well. What else is on the horizon for Zaharoff as a brand, as a luxury brand?
So there's the leather goods. We have the tobacco, the cigars.
Right.
And we have something else that I can't say yet.
Okay.
But yeah, so, and that for now is it.
Okay. I mean, like I said, you said already, you're doing a lot. So every time you add something to the plate, there's one more thing that you have to do. So I can totally understand how, you know, you want to pace yourself. And, you know, I think especially the growth over the past 5 years has been nothing short of phenomenal. And especially, I've, heard you talk about your story before. A lot of things happened as far as how things were with R.I.P before you had a fragrance, before you had the clothing line, right. And, just circumstances of life in the world just changed things. And you came back in. I have to say that personally, I think it was 2018. So I really started getting the fragrances in 2017, I think it was. So I really just started then when I experienced Signature. And I think I told you, like, that original 60 ml bottle, I used it pretty much every day. I went through it in like a year. It was ridiculous. I always tell people, I was like, ladies and gentlemen, George has not paid me at all for anything. But
did anyone ever say that to you?
What?
About you getting paid or anything like that?
No. They never asked about that. But I always talked about Zaharoff. I've always talked about how nice it was, or how gentlemanly it was. I went to restaurants. I'm talking to waitresses. I say, hey, your boyfriend would like this. You should try this. You, like, when I get compliments, like, you should get it for your significant other. And rosé, I talked about rosé a lot, especially with being so, in my opinion, unisex. Just like, hey, this is a rose fragrance I think you would like, male or female, because I've never been a big rose person, and smelling rosé, I'm like, oh, this is really good. This is something that has that sweetness and that fluidness, but is refreshing, but it doesn't just overpower you either. I'm like, oh, this is really great. So I've, anybody watching this has probably seen my content. I'm wearing Zaharoff at least once a week when I'm doing center day. I just packed for an excursion I'm going on, and half the fragrances are Zaharoff travel fragrances.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you. And your support means the world to me, especially in the very beginning, because it was very scary to put myself out there into the world, and
Understood.
cool to see early on that some people were, huge supporters of mine from the very beginning, and I'm so grateful. And that, like you said, the poster behind you, that was with Steven, we did that for Fragrance Day. And we gave out 100 of them, I think, and we both signed a letter and we sent those out. Yeah,
Yes.
and it's the blueprint of the deco blueprint for the signature bottle. And if people behind you could see the red, it's like a solid red. So what there is, it's a blueprint of the bottle itself, and the red is the deco area, meaning the area in which can be printed by the printer. So what happens is it's given to me saying, okay, this is the area where you could print the Z logo, the Zaharoff, or whatnot. I see now that it's you see how the background is blurry? Is that something that Skype does or something? Is that what
Yes, unfortunately, yeah.
No. All right. You don't have that. I have it, I guess. So yeah, oh, look at this. You know what? Oh, look, that's better. Okay. Wow. All right. I kind of like that better. So anyway, I'm just very grateful to you and to the many people who supported Zaharoff from the very beginning. There's 12 fragrances now. Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
That's crazy.
Well, George, I will say this, though. One, you make a good product, so it's very easy to support someone who makes a good product. Two, just your personality alone, once, even just watching YouTube videos, in my opinion, you were somebody who were very easy to root for. And three, like I said before, the way you just engage with the online community, I'm sure every experience wasn't the best. That's how it is with people in online in general. But
I love it. I love it so much. I just wish I could do more. And
right.
What that I hold myself back because I don't want to upset people. Like, you know what I mean? But yes. I would do more of it if I could. If I hold myself back, and it's a shame because this is the future of fragrance.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going anywhere else. Like if someone could say to me where fragrance is going to go in the future, it's this space. And there's a lot of individuals, Eldon, that don't like. I don't know if it's gatekeeping. I don't know. But I don't know how a small channel, like someone who loves fragrances and is passionate about it, how do they start? If they don't have $100,000 in the bank to buy, all right, let's say $100,000, let's say $30,000 to start their collection, to start buying fragrances. You know what I mean? Yes.
I agree. I tell people, one of the things I tell people all the time, I don't care how much it costs. If it smells good on me, that's all that really matters. And I also tell people, yes, you're going to see a difference between a, say, $6 fragrance and a $100 fragrance. Most of the time. Not all the time. Most of the time. But you will go with what you like and just experiment. That's why I always tell people, experiment. Like, literally, I'm looking at a bottle of what's called G. Bellini. I picked it up at Lidl. It's a dupe of Dior Sauvage. A $4.99 fragrance should not smell that good now. It doesn't smell one-to-one as Sauvage, but I was surprised. I'm like, this is potent. It has a good smell, great longevity, projection. One of my friends, I told him, and he loves Sauvage. He smelled it. He's like, I get more compliments with this than I do the real thing. And it's $4.99. So I say, I always tell people, look, don't worry about what's niche, what's designer. Just go with what you like.
That's right. I agree. And there's a lot of snobs.
Yes.
And there's a lot of gatekeeping. And so for even niche, there's a group, and there's groups it's almost like high school cafeteria. You know what I mean? Like,
yes,
you have individuals that like fragrances from a certain era, you know, from the 80s or 90s. And so you've got niche from the 90s, you've got designer groups, and then you have the dupes, as you call it, and then you have the newer groups of fragrance houses like myself coming up. And it's a lot of headwinds. There's a lot of headwind. There's a lot of tailwind too. But you gotta, you know, I just have to focus on the tailwind, the support and all of that, and not pay attention to the headwind and just find a way to just get around it, to go to wherever, you know. And so you're absolutely correct. Find what you want. You know, I was talking to my perfume house, and I go, you know, the $1,000 bottle of, you know, whatever, those oils, I want to have access to those oils, that type of quality. And they said, George, you have that. That's what you have in your fragrances. And I said, well, why is that $1,000 a bottle? And they said it's the coefficient of the brand. The markup of the brand, whatever it is that they deem it to be, is the reason why it's the price. And that's why you said, that it's not necessarily quality equates to price. Do you know what I mean? And
yes.
So, yeah.
It's understandable. And I really, now with Zaharoff, one of the things I've enjoyed, especially as the line or the house has expanded, is that there's so many different varieties. And for me, when I give recommendations, especially houses, I like seeing different fragrances for maybe different events, different circumstances. And that's one of the things I've liked with Zaharoff. I haven't smelled was it citrine yet, but I'm definitely interested in it, especially with how muggy it's been here. I'm like, man.
Citrine, so you haven't smelled Coco Loco either. And
no,
so
I was going to ask you about that one as well, as far as the inspiration behind that.
Okay, so those of you, like, there's people to make it easier how to pronounce Zaharoff. It's Za, like pizza. Har, like har, like, you know, funny. And then off, like the switch. Zaharoff.
Okay.
Zaharoff. And so the citrine is a masterpiece. But I wanted something that would rival the Hermes d'Orange, the concentrate that I wore for 20 years. And I think, just personally speaking, I think I pulled it off. The citrine is a masterpiece. But the thing is that when you have a citrus that sparkles, that has so much citrus, that gives you that gush, you can't pile it on the back end of it. So It's not going to last as long as most fragrances. And so citrine is meant to be applied, you know, 3-4 times during the day to experience it. It was meant to be that kind of fragrance.
Right.
It was meant to be. It is that kind of fragrance because it's still around. And so I did something during the day, which was citrine, and then I did Coco Loco for the evening. So, you know, more of an evening sense. So like, me, you know, being at the beach in Mykonos during the day, wearing citrine, and then in the evening going to a club, to a bar, to a restaurant, and putting Coco Loco. So, but Coco Loco gave me whiplash because we sold the entire summer season inventory in 1 week. It was gone in 1 week, and and it was just like, wow. So I'm scrambling. I'm hoping, and the oil was just shipped from Man on Friday. So I'm hoping in the next 2 weeks to have it back up and running. But that was just incredible. Never happened ever. So, yeah.
Well,
I got to keep your nose on both of those.
Definitely. I would say this, so that is definitely a testament to the quality of the fragrances you put out, but also the recognition that that quality has gone over the past few years as well. There are so many, like, I love the internet and Instagram, particularly just because I have been able to learn and experience so many fragrance houses, fragrance designers that didn't exist back in 2018, 2017 when I got into fragrances, and to see the passion that they display, to see how fragrance is such a part of what they do. And you were, as far as that whole ilk, you were really the first person for me that I saw really come out and say, okay, to display that passion. It's Zaharoff signature is very much you. Like, I see that and that passion and whatnot, as far as the collaboration with you and Claude. Like, I see that in your fragrances. I smell that in your fragrances, and that is something that I'm seeing, with a lot of these really smaller brands. Like, you get that passion when you put on their fragrances. And again, not to knock a designer or even some of the niche houses, it's something about the online presence, the connectivity with the individuals actually behind the fragrance, where you get to learn more about them and who they are, whether it is, not saying we need to know where you live, what you do, but at least your personality.
Right.
I think that bleeds a whole lot into people's perceptions of fragrances as well, especially when they're good. I can't say when they're bad, because if I don't like something, you won't hear me talking about it, because that defeats the purpose, in my opinion. But I really enjoyed that, and I liked that. And that's one of the things that made me gravitate to you as well, because of that passion. And then when you smell the fragrances, you it's something that you put your heart and soul into.
And it's very true. Because I was doing fragrances in the 90s, and in 2001, I had to close everything down, the fragrance side of it. And so I had tried since then. So you're looking at 20 some years of trying to bring it back. And so for to have, to be able to do that, it's very, very special to me. And the relationship I have, like with you or my customer or a Z head, as we call them, the Z heads, it's a very holy and sacred thing. And so, because you work, you're leaving tomorrow on a trip, it's for work.
Yes.
Earn your paycheck, and you take something that you've earned and you give it to me in exchange for something I created. That's a very holy experience for me. And then to go to all of the different people that have to bring the actual fragrance together and all the components, and it's just really, when you really think about it, like, so even with the Z creators, people think that this bottle with just box with the fragrance just shows up, and it's like, the cap is this, the box, the bottle, the liner, the dip tube, and there's so much that goes into it. And so, and what's interesting is the thing with Claude, I don't know if the zeitgeist, because each fragrance is beautiful. Like, they're all like beautiful. Like, the collection is beautiful fragrances, and they each serve a purpose. And so the signature line is kind of what I call the best in class. So you want a wood, okay. You have the signature, which is a fougere, which is a kind of a retro futuristic. It really defines Zaharoff. And then, you want something softer and more like a cashmere sweater. Well, that's Royale. You want something sexier, you've got X. You want something really nasty sexy, you have triple X. You want leather, well, there's leather to back. You want a softer leather, a softer to back, well, there's regular to back. It's really a beautiful celebration of fragrance, the whole collection. And I told Claude, I go, Claude, the signature line is yours exclusively. until you quit doing it, or you retire or whatever.
Right.
And so we have a couple more. We've got maybe 2 years of future coming, and they're all beautiful, and I'm excited about it. And then I have a private blend coming, which is going to be interesting. So it's coming.
Well, George, I have no doubt they're going to be beautiful based on what I've experienced over the years, but I am not going to hold you any longer. I know you got some things to do, and I got some things to do too.
I'm having fun with this, so I don't mind talking with you, but if you need to go, I'm good with that. I appreciate the time. Is there anything you want to ask me? Anything else?
I just want to pick your brain as far as, how all of this came about, your passion, because I think I've heard you talk other places. And so I've gotten a lot of the story, especially pre 9/11. I've gotten a lot of that. I wanted to know about your passion. I wanted to let you know, like, hey, these are the things that really gravitated me to you and your brand outside of just, you make some really good fragrances.
So my mother was a fashion designer,
right.
And I grew up in the fabrics. I grew up in all of that. And so when I finished DePaul University, I wanted to go on and start a fashion house. At 19, I was 19 years old. And so at 20, I thought, I still think about it like I was just a child at the time, but I had the, big kahunas to go out into the world and just show that this is my dream. And I've had to prove myself all the time. Even having product at Nordstrom, every Monday, I would get a call with the buyers and go through all of the sales at each region, and so it was all about that. And so to be in the stores for 30 years, it says a lot.
Right, it does.
About my drive and what I have to keep things moving and doing. And that's, I've been schooled with that. And these are all the ideas you see with me of trying to stay relevant, me pursuing my dreams, but I don't make it about me. I try making it about everyone.
Right.
That's including, hey, with Ross, let's do something together, or, whoever, let's do, Justin, let's do this project. That's the world I come from.
Right.
And so, and then the finishing is from my time in Italy. When I had the fashion house, I was actually in Italy. And then we came back. I had a license with the tailored clothing. And tailored clothing, you F it up. One little thing is off on a jacket and it doesn't fit right.
Right.
The finishing. And so what you see when you open a box, you look at a box, you look at my cap, you look at the bottle, that's from my eye, the finishing of, people see it, and you could tell subconsciously, you might understand the way the box is made or whatever, but when you see it, it looks different than others because of the way it was made or the design. Right. So
I will tell you, it's very hard. I don't think the one bottle that I of signature I've totally used. I'm thinking I haven't thrown away any boxes. Like I still have the box in the bottle because I can't bear to throw it away.
I know, Eldon,
because it's so pretty.
Me too. Even from production, I don't want to throw them out. I have a box of boxes, and I don't want to throw them out. I don't know what I'm going to do with them. I just don't. But I don't want to throw them out. I get it, and my used bottles too. I get it, and I wish like there was a way to recycle or. And I think about that too. Like, what can I do to reuse or recycle or something, And that's a challenge in itself.
Right.
But yeah, well, thank you, Eldon. No, thank you. But like I said, you've connected with something because you see something in yourself. You see something in Zaharoff that you see in yourself, that there's a connection, and that's why you're a refined gentleman, and you're
thank you.
A Zaharoff guy. You are.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh,
Good
boy.
stuff.
Well, George, I'm going to let you go because I need to go too. The night is getting long here. But George, let everybody know where they can find you online.
Zaharoff.com. You could find me on Facebook. There's a Z Lounge, which is a private. Are you on Facebook, Alden?
Yes, I am.
Are you in my lounge?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Yes, you are. Yeah. So you could find me on Facebook. Find me on. You could find me on Instagram. I'm there on YouTube as well. I've got 2 channels, and come find us and have some fun. Join the Zaharoff family.
Thank you, George, for your time. I greatly appreciate it. I've enjoyed myself immensely. That was the interview with the wonderful, the passionate, the creative George Zaharoff. Of course, we're going to do our Zaharoff fragrance as a fragrance of the week when it go way back to the one that started, or at least for this iteration of the company. And we're going to talk about Signature Pour Homme. Now, this is described as a fragrance, a fougere fragrance having fresh, floral, spicy, witty accords. It features top notes of pear, French lavender, Guatemalan cardamom, Provençal blue cedar, and Zanzibar black pepper. Heart notes of Indonesian oud, Florentine iris, Canadian fir balsam, Cali ginger, pimento leaf, Virginia cedar, and then base notes of Australian sandalwood, Chinese myrrh, black amber, Ethiopian frankincense, and then Indonesian patchouli. And if you harken back to the interview, you know that George sourced all of these oils from all over the world. So these aren't imitations or cheap fakes. And one of the things that really attracted me to the fragrance was it's so classy but still modern at the same time. It is such a gentlemanly fragrance, and also it has such a calming, soothing effect with the lavender and then the frankincense and the oud. It is one that literally if I could just have a huge vat of it and fix it to my shower and take a shower in it, I would. It is that so soothing, cooling, refreshing, and in some respects invigorating as well. And I believe the 100 ml is running for $160 at the moment. I believe they phased out the 60 ml bottles, but yeah, it's still worth it for the price that it is, and is one that I always recommend anyone to get, because it's one that will be versatile and is one that you will never ever regret purchasing. So that is my take on Signature Pour Homme from Zaharoff. So let's talk about how you can support us. First of all, you can support by going over to Basil and Sage, getting one of those subscription boxes. Your first box, you get 10% off with the code Sartorial and Geek 10. Also become a patron on Patreon for just $1 a month, $1, $3, and $5 producer tiers, as well as you want some, smell good, some hair care products. Check out Pete and Pedro. Use the link in the show notes, the affiliate link, for 10% off your first purchase. And then if you're tired of all those sugary energy drinks, try Dubby. Get 10% off your first purchase with the code WebsterMan, or use the affiliate link below. And of course, I'm everywhere in the net. You can see me multiple times a week, all over the place. Right here, of course, Webster.com, Sartorial Geek Podcast, but also over on Nerds of the World. Check me out with my man Brian Sav, talking about the latest in gaming over at the NRW Checkpoint. Also talking about wrestling every week as the Internet Trios champion with Sean Mongo, the Legend Crew EP on Kayfabe Baby, the NRW Ring Generals podcast. Of course, find me on social media on Instagram, Webster Style and Sartorial and Geek. Twitter, Webster Style, or X, whatever the hell Elon Musk wants to call it nowadays. And of course, TikTok _Webster Style. If you want to reach out to me, reach out at info@websterstylemagazine.com. And of course, anything and everything that is Webster Style can be found at websterstyle.com. I thank you for your time. I thank you for your listening ear. Remember, stay safe out there and be blessed.
Okay, I might have went over the edge. Besides, I really let them close on them legs. Some guys need to get strong. We can lift them to the sky. The party starts at 12. We got a little time to get it on. And on back, I'm the type who puts it on. And after that, take a Tuesday. Had to be bow tie Thursday. Had to be. White Wednesday? Well, I know last time. Well, I wore polka dot. You didn't wear. Miss Million, them heels killing them, but I'm sure it's a Thursday. Bow tie Thursday. Pasta cream in your heels looking sherbet. Acting like you don't know the rules up in the workplace. Must I remind you it was till on your birthday? Don't get me wrong, I think we killed in the birthdays. And you picked the hella fit for the church day. Let's say you picked the wrist game for it. Now you got the floor filled with bras that you purchase. Pick a color scheme that can match your berry corset. Get the berry cream, get the berry cream, we can make a little scene. Cause no one man should have all that styling. Take it off, clothes on the floor piling. No one girl should fit it all in them jeans. So take it off and let me see what's under them seams. Cause no one man should have all that styling. Take it off, clothes on the floor piling. No one girl should fit it all in them jeans. So take it off and let me see what's under them seams. Let's see what it seems. If it is what it seems. Do it again. Chicks be looking thick leggings, you know what I mean? I don't know. Take a hint though, don't try to get me out of my mint though. Smoking hot, rocking this pin so thin. Tie hairline, looking like a stencil pin. No lie, I'm sharper than a utensil. Instrumental, plain dang, homie. I was hoping we could walk out with that bang bang, honey. See them plain James, honey. Them lame frames, funny. We tell it fit it crazy like that thing came on me. Hey, mommy. Look a lady, main thing, want me on the scene. Fit popping like a main vein, running blood color lips, smashing with the hand clutch money, holding back, kinda funny. Can you tell me what's the price tag of the Range Rover? Hang on me when we walking, looking Gucci like that thing sprayed on me. Walking with a limp like an ankle sprained on me. Yeah, I rock the cardigan. She don't really want me because one man should have all that styling. Take it off, clothes on the floor, piling. No one girl should fit it all in them jeans. So take it off and let me see what's under them seams. Cause no one man should have all that styling. Take it off, clothes on the floor, piling. No one girl should fit it all in them jeans. So take it off and let me see what's under them seams. Hey, let me see. Let me see. Let me see. Aim off and on the middle alone. Aim off and on the middle alone. Cause no one man should have all that styling. Take it off, clothes on the floor piling. No one girl should fit it all in them jeans. So take it off and let me see what's under them seams. Oh, you wanted to? Oh, I completely read that wrong.